Welcome to Pathways Through the Prairie. I am your host, State Librarian Mary Soucie. We will interview North Dakota librarians and library staff, state government leaders and employees, and interesting North Dakotans. Join us as we meander down the pathways through the prairie. I am joined today by Ward County Public Library Director Kerri Boetcher. I've known Kerri for 10 years, and I am really looking forward to our conversation today. So thank you, Kerri, for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So, Kerri, the State Library's mission is providing pathways to information and innovation. Tell us what your pathway into the library world looked like.
So it started out actually when I was really little. My mom was on the library board for our local county, and then my dad was county commissioner, which helped, and they both worked together to help build a library connected to the courthouse. So I was in that, and then we had a bookmobile growing up. I did my undergrad in education, but was still interested in going into the library, and originally I thought about going and doing school library, but through going to the library in college, I noticed so many freshmen who weren't quite understanding how to utilize the library. So I went to library school thinking I'd work in a special collections or working in a university, but working with incoming freshmen and high school seniors to learn how to use an academic library. And then I wound up in a public library. So,
And how did you wind up in the public library?
I started applying for jobs when I was getting close to done with grad school, and it was getting to the point where most of them required you needed 2 to 3 years of experience. Well, coming out of grad school, you don't really have the 2 to 3 years of experience. And my job at Ward County popped up, and I was like, well, do I apply? Maybe, maybe not. I'm like, oh, I'll just apply, see what happens, and interviewed, and one of their first questions was, do you have a place to live? And I went, yep. And they went, you're hired.
Wow.
So,
and how long have you been here?
I started at Ward County in January of 2012, so 12 years
As director.
as director.
So what are some of the innovative things that you have introduced as director of the Ward County Public Library?
We've started a makerspace, so still kind of small, not super tech-based just because we don't have the space for more tech-based ones, but we've done that. We've gotten newer computers that don't have the towers that people keep tipping over anymore. We're currently working on getting a new bookmobile that will have a couple more technological aspects that our current one doesn't have. And
Okay. So for folks who may not know what a makerspace is, can you explain that?
it's basically a place to make, a place to think, a place to do. So ours is a lot of crafts and paper things. So we have kids that crochet. We have kids that make Prairie bead projects. So they're beads that you put in a design and iron. There's Legos, Keva planks over there. Legos are probably one of the more popular ones. Keva planks, they're like, I don't understand what I'm supposed to do with this. They're just wood, but a lot of them still like it. And then some of more technical ones, there's ones that have tools. There's ones that have 3D printers, which I would love a 3D printer. Our IT department would not love an 3D printer, so we're still working on them for that. But
Something to dream for.
yeah, we just, with a grant through the state library, just got 3D doodlers.
Oh, fun.
So I can't wait for our kids to try that. And I'm got to send out our 4-H department sometimes sends kids over because they work with coming up with ideas through our makerspace so that they can take stuff to state,
Oh, very
to
awesome.
the state fair.
So is your makerspace just primarily for kids, or do adults also enjoy it?
Some adults enjoy it. Mostly kids have been doing it. We require if they're under the age of 10 that they have to have an adult with them.
Sure, that makes
Just
sense.
because pearly beads are kind of small, and we don't want
Choking
the
hazard.
kids sticking in their
And a
mouth.
hot iron.
We don't give them the iron.
You do the ironing.
We do the ironing,
Makes sense. Okay.
mainly because we don't want the iron to disappear and we don't want the iron to fall.
And do you provide makerspace kits through the bookmobile or just at your 2 physical locations?
Just in the physical locations. The bookmobile, they don't really stop at any location long enough for them to do anything with the makerspace. We've looked at possibly lending out mini makerspaces, but a lot of the schools where the teachers would be the ones that would check it out have their own little mini makerspace, so there hasn't really been a need for it.
Sure. And you mentioned there'll be some increased technology on the new bookmobile. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, our current one, the radio doesn't quite work, and we originally were supposed to have a loudspeaker system in it, but we'll get a loudspeaker so we can play music. Radio should work. There's a couple of things that I said just surprised me on, so we'll see.
Oh, interesting.
But they're also working on the inside of the bookmobile will be a little bit more technologically advanced, so the batteries and how the bookmobile runs will be quite different from our other one. They switched up what type of batteries they use, so the current one has like golf cart type batteries, and I think these are smaller and hopefully a little bit easier to get to.
A little easier to maintain, maybe.
Yeah.
So are there any changes you hope to introduce in the future?
I have lots of ideas. I probably won't get to much of them, but I'd like to increase the makerspace. What I'd love to do, and I don't think our commission will ever let me do it, but is to get not a huge bookmobile, but a minier, smaller one, so that we could take printers and stuff around and do a mobile,
Like a mobile computer lab?
computer lab, mobile makerspace. When you look at the costs, I don't think I'll
Sure.
ever get to do that one, but it's a dream.
And maybe work with a car dealership in town or someone that could donate a van.
Yeah. The cost of the van actually wouldn't be as much as you would think. It's more looking at the staff and,
Staff and equipment,
and benefits, and
the Wi-Fi.
once you start putting
and-
that
sure,
all that
that
in,
makes a lot of sense.
that's the part. We've also looked at getting hotspots to rent out, which again costs and something different is scary. So we're working on that, but
It's good to have goals and ideas and dreams.
yeah.
All libraries have those.
And eventually, I'd love a self-checkout system.
So again, there may be people who don't know. Explain about self-checkout
So a
system.
self-checkout system is basically a computer station where patrons can come. So if the librarian's busy and they want to check out their books, they can come, they can check it out to themselves.
Just like self-checkout in
Yeah.
the grocery store or Walmart
Just like at the
or
grocery
anything
store,
like that.
Walmart, Target.
What appeals about that? Like how does that serve your patrons?
It would serve them because a lot of times, since we are a smaller library, staff are busy helping patrons or working on an event, and people are left to wait to check out. So if you're in a hurry and you got to get going, then you still get behind because you got to wait for us, which we attempt to do, and we're working towards getting better. But there's patrons who do need help on the computer because technology is hard and they might not have worked on it, and
Sure.
the way you're supposed to do resumes changes every 5 years. So
Sure. And there may be some patrons who want to check something out that they might not want everyone to know that they're reading, even though librarians don't ever talk about what they help a specific patron check out, and that's actually protected in our state statutes.
well, and sometimes you're a little bit embarrassed, so you don't even want the librarian to know, because what if they're internally judging you, and
Right.
or there's tough topics. There's maybe you're a recovering alcoholic and you want a book about recovering from alcoholism, and you don't want anybody to know that you're struggling with this then.
Right.
But on a side note, librarians don't judge you.
Never. Absolutely not. We provide services to everyone that walks through our doors, even if they're not a member of our community.
There are very random topics that we get asked about.
Absolutely.
I once got asked if we had the book about the guy that mailed himself out of jail.
Did you have the book?
We did not.
I'm not familiar with that story.
I'm not even sure I'm familiar with it. We attempted to find the book, and the patron's like, "Yeah, I'll find it on Amazon." Like, all right.
Interesting.
There was this guy, and he wanted to escape from jail, so he put himself in a box and mailed himself out of jail. I was very confused by the whole story.
That sounds fiction. It sounds like it might be based on a true story, but that
Yeah.
sounds
I'm pretty sure it was
pretty
fiction. but-
fantastical.
Yeah. I was honestly shocked that Google had a result that popped up. And I'm like,
Sure.
all right. Then we had a teenager come on one time and they went, we want that book that's Hunger Games, but Cinderella. It's a Kira Cass, The Selection.
Okay.
It's a story of there's this fictional kingdom has different levels that people reside in, and when there's a new prince who's looking for a wife, they pick so many people from each level, and they go and they compete to be the one that the prince selects to be his wife.
Absolutely. Hunger Games meets Cinderella.
Uh-huh.
Were you able to find the book?
Yes.
That's awesome.
We had actually just gotten it, so I was like, I know that one.
Oh, you had it in your collection.
Yeah.
You didn't even
Yeah.
have to borrow it from another
No.
library.
No.
What are some services that the Ward County Public Library offers that you think people might be surprised to find out about?
Most people are surprised that we still have a bookmobile. So the bookmobile, a lot of people don't know that they can come and we'll proctor tests for them. We have tax forms, so you can come get the IRS tax forms if you still prefer the paper version, or you're like me and have to write it out on paper so that you know you did it right. Trying to think of what else. And I'm blanking right now, but our databases through the state library, Ancestry, which is only available in the library, but we have a lot of people that come in to use that, and that's a completely, totally amazing database.
And that's for people who may not know. Hard to believe that there'd be somebody in this world that doesn't know about Ancestry, but that is a genealogy, so you can learn about your family history.
We haven't gotten too much of a chance to talk about it with our patrons yet, but Canopy.
Yes, so tell us about Canopy.
I don't know if I can remember everything with Canopy, but Canopy is a database where you can go on and download movies to watch, so that if you, hey, I want to see the latest Barbie movie, but I don't want to go buy it because
Well, it doesn't have bestsellers. It has more independent films and foreign films, documentaries, a lot of documentaries. So you're not going to watch Barbie, but you can watch a lot of other very informational and entertaining movies that way. So what are some of the changes that you've noticed in your library over the last 14 years that you've been here?
Well, we moved buildings, so that changed how some of our patrons got to us. We were a completely separate building from the rest of our county departments, so most people didn't know we were a library. They assumed we were a bank or a garage, which was nice when we moved, though we did lose a little bit of storage space when we moved, but that was all right. Then one thing with the amount of the unhoused or homeless, because we switched locations and we came closer to downtown, we were able to better serve a lot of them because they were able to come in, and we're really close to one of the warming centers in town, so they can come in. We had one come in 2021, and he said, I just want to thank you guys because you let me come in, you let me use the computer, you helped me on the computer, and because of that, I was able to move from part-time to full-time in my job, so I was able to get a place to live.
Wonderful.
And then he wanted to buy us a cup of coffee, and I said,
That's why we do what we do, right?
How about instead of buying me a cup of coffee, next time you see somebody on the street that's where you were, buy them the cup of coffee and tell them to come to the library so that they can get help.
Oh, that's an amazing story, Kerri. Thank you so much for sharing it. Is there a change in the way that people use library materials?
Ours has kind of fluctuated. We do have a lot, especially of our older patrons, who have gotten to using more of the electronic books, so ebooks, e-audiobooks, because they can make the font so much bigger. But we still have a lot of my generation or younger prefer the physical book because they prefer being able to hold it and smell it and feel it. And
I have to admit, I don't like reading large print in a physical book.
no, it's too heavy.
That is part of it, and something about the page just messes with the size of the print on the page. But I do love to read on my iPad because I can make the font bigger and nobody knows it. So
Well, and again, large prints are too heavy.
yes, they are. And
I
carry
was
my
shelving
iPad
one day
with
and
me
one of them
always.
fell off, and hit me on the head.
Oh, my word. Did you get a bump?
I did not, but I still had to fill out an incident report for work.
That's hilarious.
Cause of accident, book fell off shelf.
That's unique. Probably not in the library world, but probably in,
Yeah, and
the
I don't
county
know that
world.
workforce safety had ever seen that one before.
That's awesome, Kerri. What do you think people would be surprised to find out about your job as a library director?
That it is not just reading books and eating chocolates. A lot of my day is spent helping patrons on the computer. A lot of it is spent looking up things for patrons, answering reference questions, and it's going to sound crazy, but a lot of it is they don't understand the amount of work that goes into cataloging a book and all of the data because they just see the screen on the catalog that says, hey, this book is in the fiction, but they're not seeing you looked up oranges to get the James Patterson book. Why did you look up oranges and get James Patterson? Well, that's in the data and the record, and I, and mostly my staff, had to type that in so that you could see that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Is there anything about your job that you do differently than the way you used to? So, like, has cataloging changed? Has programming changed?
Cataloging actually hasn't really changed that much since I started, but I didn't start that long ago, so.
So when I started in the library world, we were still typing card catalog cards.
Mm-hmm.
We still had the big physical wooden card catalogs, and it's amazing how many libraries in North Dakota still have a library card, not a card catalog, rather, not used as a card catalog. I was at the Leach Public Library in Wahpeton yesterday, and they have 2 card catalogs that are coffee tables. And I think I saw a card catalog in your library when I walked in.
We have a card catalog, but we use it for staff use. So that's when you fill out a card application to get a library card, we file that in our card catalog.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
And the old library, we had a bigger one that still had some of the original card catalogs in it. But when we moved, we didn't have a space for it. So one of our staff members took it home, and her husband was able to cut it in half because it was double-sided and make it work. So each of her daughters has one half of the card catalog.
Oh, wow. Mm-hmm. That's really fun.
Programming has changed a little bit. Since 2020, there's been a lot more virtual programming, which is so much fun because you get to show things and do more. I mean, you show them in physical, but sometimes you're a little bit more excited about things when it's virtual because you're the only one in the room and no one's there to make fun of you except for the people laughing at you online, which, though, that does get distracting as well because during virtual story times, I had kids that kept popping up comments going, hi, how are you? Are you wearing purple today? Okay, guys, I can't talk to you right now. We're in the middle of story time, but we'll discuss that at the end. And yes, I'm wearing purple.
Do you find that you interact with different patrons through virtual programs than the ones that come into the library for the physical programs?
We found we actually interact with more former patrons who have moved away in our virtual ones, that they come back because they missed us, so they want to still see us. So that was, again, part of why we kept getting, hi, how are you?
Nice.
Do you miss me? Yes, I miss you.
Approximately, what's the population that you serve?
Our service area population, because we go into a different county as well, is around 30,000. I think last count was about 31,000, 32,000.
Okay.
So smaller, but not.
By North Dakota standards, that almost makes you a medium-sized library, really, because there's so many small and truly rural.
Yeah.
You serve a lot of rural patrons.
And it's nice because we are, quote unquote, bigger, but we still have the opportunity to know our patrons one-on-one and know, hey, you were going to have surgery last week. How'd that go?
Mm-hmm.
Which I think in a bigger library sometimes you know them, but it gets a little lost, and you can't know all of them.
Right, right.
I mean, there has been times where I've been knowing, especially with some of our patrons who come in every week or every day, I've gone, okay, wait, they have surgery on this date, so I'm going to enter that in the phone so I remember that.
Mm-hmm. I can still remember. So I was a library director at a small library in Illinois. Small by Illinois standards, not necessarily small by North Dakota standards. But I can still remember, and this was years ago, but it was the middle of the week. I had a day off. I went into the grocery store, and one of our young patrons was in front of me, and she saw me, and her eyes got like huge. And she tugs on her mom's shirt, and her mom leans over, and she starts laughing, and she turned to me, and she said, patron wants to know if you're here, who's running the library. Must be Miss Nikita, who was my children's librarian and assistant director. It's like, yes, Miss Nikita's running the library. But in her mind, if I wasn't at the library, then the library must be closed. So how was I at the library in the middle of the day? It's so fun, the connections that you can make with patrons, especially when you're in a smaller library.
Quite a few years ago, but I was at Target, and all I felt was this body hit me, and I'm like, what? Look down. It's library lady.
Library lady.
And then there's this mom. I look around. There's this mom frantically looking around. I'm like, he's right here. We got him. We're good.
And that title, library lady, carries with you even when you're at a bigger library, even at the state library. I've had other state agency folks refer to our former assistant state librarian and myself as library. It's the library ladies during session, which makes
I've
me
also
chuckle,
turned around at the store and little girl going, you were at my school. You had on a green wig. Yep.
And what was that for?
That was actually for summer reading. So to promote summer reading, we try to, at the end of every school year, go into the schools that we serve and go to every classroom and talk to them about, hey, this is what we're doing for summer reading. This is when our kickoff is. By the way, if you forgot your bookmobile book today, please bring it to your office so that we get it back. But I try to dress up a little bit so that they see something. And I think that was the year of rock and roll. So I had a green wig so that it was different.
You were a rocker.
Yeah, that one was fun because then the little kids would go, "Is that your real hair?"
Of course it is.
What do you think? And one of them goes, "You can see her real hair."
Kids are the best. You never know what's going to come out of their mouths.
That's also fun, especially at the beginning of the school year, we go to the kindergarten classes and we talk to them about how to use the bookmobile because it's their first time using the bookmobile. Every year, because I'll do, okay, should you feed your book to your dog? Should you spread spaghetti sauce on it and eat it? Every year, there's at least one kid that goes, yes. And there's one kid that goes, you're stupid.
Oh, my goodness.
They're my favorite kids.
No filters. Kids have no filters.
They don't.
So, like when I lived in Illinois, there weren't bookmobiles, traditional bookmobiles in the sense like there are here in North Dakota. And we have 12 traditional bookmobiles. Then we have a couple libraries that have kind of mobile libraries. So if we have someone listening who's not familiar, explain what your bookmobile is, how it operates, who you serve through it.
The best way to describe our bookmobile is it's basically like a UPS truck that has books. They pull up to the school. There's 2 doors on ours right now. One of them doesn't always work. So you walk in, go up some steps. There's a desk so that they check in books. And then if you turn to the right, there's shelves on either side that have books, audio CDs. We used to have magazines. They didn't get checked out as much, so we don't have them on the bookmobile right now, but we can bring them out for people. And then up front is 2 seats where they sit while we drive and a checkout desk so that you can check out books. And then when it's working, you can exit out up there too, but the wind likes to take that door.
And you primarily serve students through the bookmobile?
It depends on where we stop. So right now, during the school year, we have 30 stops that we make, and 14 of those are schools, and then the rest are smaller towns where some of them used to have schools, but the school is now closed due to lack of students, so we still stop, and we stop downtown. And then there's 4 senior centers where we take books to on a rotating basis, and we leave them there so that people can come to the senior center and get them.
And you said you're getting a new bookmobile.
Yep.
And what was that process like?
Ridiculous. So there's very few places in the United States that make bookmobiles, so you're limited. You can't just go to your local car shop and buy a bookmobile. So we started out, we've been raising money, and then we applied for grants, and we're still applying for grants to get it because they are very expensive. But we sent out requests for bids to 5 companies and then waited for them to come back so that we knew kind of an approximate cost. So do we need to do more? Which one's going to be the most? And they ranged from 320,000 to 400,000
Wow, that's a big
for
range.
basic, nothing fancy, nothing, no bells, not super bells and whistles, just a basic bookmobile. And part of that is they get a chassis and they get the body, and then they have to put them together, and then they build the shelves and all of that in it. So part of ours, we got notice when they got the body, the door had shifted. So we had to look at that and say, okay, you're going to lose shelving. And we're like, we can make this work. That's not a huge deal. With the change, we didn't need some of the mechanical things that they were going to do. So that could go out. And then they're like, hey, why'd we sell this to you? You don't really need this. Like, I don't know. And they're like, okay, well, we're going to take that off. I'm like, okay, sounds good.
Great.
And of course, I'm not the most mechanically inclined person, so we keep getting questions, and then I have to email some of our board members who are more mechanically inclined and going, okay, they said this isn't important, but it kind of sounds important. And he's like, nope, that's good. I'm like, okay, good. And one of the things with ours, so we had the option of bidding it so that they would put a wrap and decorate it, and so it's not just one color. But we, as the board, decided they wanted to have that done locally. So it'll come one color, and then we're going to put bids out to have somebody local put decorations on it and
That's great.
make it look pretty.
That's wonderful. Well, best wishes with that.
Fingers
May the
crossed.
road be seamless.
We signed the contract in January of 2023 to buy it.
Wow.
So at that time, the company we chose said 12 to 18 months. So when we last talked to them, they're still on track for 18 months, but most of the other companies were 2 to 3 years minimum. It's amazing.
It's a process.
Our current bookmobile had a part break, and they thought they were going to have to order it from Germany. It literally would have been faster to have my husband fly to Germany to get it and fly back than to wait for the part to come, because the part was out like 6 months.
Wow.
And it was a heater part, so.
Kind of important in winter in North Dakota. Does your bookmobile go out year-round?
It does. We go out. So we're in April, so we're getting down to, we have 1 stop left for the school year for a couple of our stops and 2 stops for a couple of our other stops. And then they'll have a 2-week break where they're getting the bookmobile ready for summer and then getting oil changes, getting it cleaned. Then we'll start our summer schedule, and that will go till the 3rd week in August. And then they have about a week and a half break, and we start the school year schedule again. So,
Wow. No rest.
well, they get a little bit of rest in December because since we operate in school year basically on the school year schedule, once Christmas break hits, they do get a break during Christmas break, so that we're not going to the school when the kids aren't there. There's not a hundred fun there, but.
Right. Well, we have meandered through a lot of pathways today, Kerri, and I thank you for joining me on Pathways Through the Prairie. I've really enjoyed our conversation, learning more about your library and the services that you provide. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hey everyone, are you a movie buff? If so, you should log into Canopy today. Canopy has access to thousands of videos. There are indie films, foreign films, educational films, a wide variety. There's also access to British TV shows, all available with your state library card or a card from your local public library. If you can't access it with your local public library card, reach out to the state library for a state library card and you'll have access to this wonderful resource.